Tonight, we're watching what we watched between the 25th and the 31st of October 1986, a week when the big beasts of entertainment were everywhere. On the front of the Radio Times, a Siberian tiger. On the front of the TV Times, a boomtown rat. That was the week we watched some beautiful fluffy bunnies in laboratories. Some beautiful baby cows in frying pans. Nina, the bitch on the box, and actors at it like animals. Appropriate then that this was the week of the ambitious World Safari, presented by Julian Pettifer and David Attenborough.
To celebrate the 25th anniversary of the World Wildlife Fund, as it then was, we were going to go around the world looking at the wildlife spectacles of the world as they happen, you see, and everything would be live.
This is London.
It was extremely worrying that things went wrong from the very beginning of the programme, because we were looking at the monitor, beginning the countdown in our ear for when the titles would come up. And for some reason or other, there was some glitch and the titles didn't come up. And so there we were thinking, oh my God, what's happened now?
This is London.
Then suddenly things did start to happen. And apparently what had happened is that they'd had to rewind the titles and then start them again for some reason.
From London, we welcome you to our satellite safari around the world. During the next 90 minutes, we shall be taking you to some of the most spectacular and important areas of wilderness that remain on our planet.
The technical glitch was broadcast live to viewers all over North America, Europe, Asia and Australia. It quickly became apparent that the most endangered things we were seeing were the careers of several television technicians.
One of them we couldn't do at all, and that was in China. The time was just wrong in China. But we had managed to get Prince Philip to talk about the pandas.
Prince Philip may have talked about pandas, but those weren't the comments we remember from his trip.
And they said, oh, there's a lot of problems here. I said, what's the matter? He said, the Duke has talked something about slitty eyes, and quite a lot of people are very, very upset, and, you know, we don't know whether it's going to come through, and he might not be in a good temper, you know. Well, that's great to tell you all in an interview at 2:30 in the morning. So, well, when it came to it, I had good morning, all that, and he was terrific.
Well, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us on World Safari, and I do hope you see those pandas.
So do I, and the best of luck with the rest of the programme, incidentally.
Thank you very much.
And the World Safari team needed all the luck it could get. The next day, Monday the 27th, saw the dawn of BBC Daytime. The BBC had never regularly screened programmes from dawn till late night before, and it needed to fill the new airtime with something. Unfortunately for World Safari, it filled it with discussions about the previous night's TV. Open Air was hosted by Bob Wellings, Patty Caldwell, and network new boy, Eamon Holmes.
Coming from local TV in a small station, this was real telly. This was telly on a monster scale. This was the BBC at its height, with costume drama and sitcoms and Saturday night entertainment shows. It was all there, it was all happening, and we were going to cover it all for this new programme called Open Air.
The idea that you would have a live discussion about the programme, I think it was fun. It was a good idea, and actually I think it was one of the more interesting aspects of the whole exercise.
Did anything go wrong? I mean, did your heart sink to your boots in the first, what, 15 seconds when there was a kind of fade to black?
I'm going to speak for myself, because I was there waiting because I was the first person to appear, and I must say, I thought, my goodness, if the rest of it's going to be like this, we're in for quite a lively hour and a half.
Another novelty the World Safari team had to master was the time delay on the live satellite link-up.
Waiting to welcome us there to the banks of the Chilkat River is dedicated conservationist, actress Stephanie Powers. Stephanie, how are you surviving the bleak weather up there?
We're all very happy to enjoy this wonderful day.
Are you seeing many eagles?
It's a great privilege.
Are you?
Oh, yes.
What are
Pardon?
they? Never mind, David. Most people were watching BBC One. The first Thatcherite soap was running at the same time on the other side, and the ladies weren't for turning over. Quintessentially 80s in Howard's Way, the women all had lady dye haircuts.
Now, if anyone should show an interest, Mother, don't be afraid to offer a discount of up to 20%.
The men all owned speedboats and flash cars, and everybody was making loads of money.
Speaking of which, be sure and insert a review of the quarter's trading loss to item 2.
Yes, of course.
ITV's 80s drama was on Tuesday night. First Among Equals, a tale of political intrigue by the then Tory Vice-Chairman, Geoffrey Archer. In this week's story, Simon Kerslake was fighting for his political life. Ironic, given that this week, Archer himself had been fighting for his political life.
The Prime Minister refused to comment on Geoffrey Archer's resignation, nor would his former boss, party chairman Norman Tebbit, who cut short a weekend away to return to London. Mr. Archer's own quiet weekend was shattered by this story in a Sunday newspaper. In it, 35-year-old prostitute Monica Coughlin says he tried to pay her to stop a scandal engulfing him.
You feel very sad at this point. Yes, very sad.
Which all goes to show that Archer's real life is much more entertaining than his fiction. If you wanted a better way of making money than via brown envelopes stuffed with cash from high-ranking politicians, you were waiting for Monday morning when computers would start helping you to rake it in.
Good evening and welcome to the Money Programme. In tonight's edition, as the deserted square mile waits for tomorrow's financial explosion, what will the Big Bang mean to the city's customers?
Here on the floor of the Stock Exchange, they're putting the finishing touches to the computers that have to be up and running in just about 15 hours' time.
Shares weren't only the preserve of the rich or the yuppies. The government was busy selling British gas back to the people.
The minimum investment for British Gas shares will be no more than £150.
If you see Sid, tell him.
Anyone called Gary, Steve or Tracy could forget it. The head of BBC Daytime was desperately hoping Gary, Steve and Tracy, and Sid for that matter, might be watching. Daytime telly was a new concept and it had to find its audience. Who did the BBC suspect the viewers might be? Well, looking at listings, I'm guessing fashion-conscious child gardeners.
One of the things that I thought the daytime service ought to be, I thought it ought to be a BBC service, not just a commercial service. I thought it should be aimed at the old, the unemployed, the poor.
The poor were also given a chance to blow their gyro, calling open air.
And now over to your calls. In our telephone room, Rachel Purnell and her telephone slaves.
Ben Mockery is called in on Floyd on food. Now, we've had a lot of good comments about this, but this isn't so favourable. He says, I like it as a whole, but I don't like the way he's drunk all the time.
And on BBC Two that particular Tuesday, Keith was in Jersey cooking up a recipe for disaster.
The thing about filming with Floyd is like all the programmes seem like hangovers. You can't really remember very much about them.
Away with the lid. No kitchens here, you see, just the field. Beautiful Jersey new potatoes, and I fried a bit of liver.
Well, we bought the calves liver in Plymouth, right, and took it over with us. And I think that was on the Thursday. And we were filming the calves liver sequence on the Sunday. I said, Keith, I'm terribly sorry, but the calves liver, don't go too near it, I said. It looks all right, but it smells terrible.
One thing for sure about this is you won't get a fresher dish anywhere. Now, back onto here.
You couldn't get with 6 feet of it, really, but anyway, he handled it and put it in the pan and chucked some brandy over it.
Just like to warm your cockles in your heart, isn't it?
And we were cooking this dish for some senator or something of the island, some sort of big bod in the island.
Senator's calf's liver. Ingredients: 1 field of Jersey Royals and a fork to lift them, 2 slices of calf's liver with skin removed from edges, 1 knob butter, half glass...
Richard, if you don't mind, my man awaits me, my bottle of wine awaits me, I better have a quick slurp, and off I go. Hello, Majesty. New Jersey potatoes. Not Majesty, as it's, Lord. No, what are you? Senator. Senator. Well, it's a bit disappointing, no toga and no laurel leaves. I did ask for them, you know.
Just as he was about to put his knife and fork in, we said, stop! The liver's off.
Start your day with a great British breakfast. With sausages, of course. Any time is British sausage time.
At 1 o'clock British sausage time, the BBC had poached a good egg from ITV.
The 1 o'clock news from the BBC with Martin Lewis.
We did a trawl to find out who was the most liked news presenter in the UK.
Good afternoon.
The message came back fairly clearly that Martin Lewis, then at ITN, was the most liked presenter.
Well, I can safely say that if I'd known that at the time, I would definitely have asked for more money, even though it was a record-breaking deal for me moving across to the BBC. The Big Bang got off to a shaky start in the city this morning. Within half an hour of the start of trading, the stock exchange computers all broke down. And the computers are the key to the new-look market.
The city came to work this morning to a new way of life, and no one knows quite where it will lead. But around 9 o'clock, it all went wrong. The computer overloaded, and the screens went out of action for half an hour.
Not so much a big bang as a small...
There were quite remarkable similarities with the news that we have seen over the last year.
Norman Tebbit challenges the BBC's news coverage of Libya.
The government was attacking the BBC. In the last year, you've had Alistair Campbell attacking BBC reporting. There was scandal at the top of the Conservative Party. Top Conservatives have been meeting in Downing Street to consider what Jeffrey Archer's resignation means to the party. And again, amazing how that story has come round, with him just this year having come out after serving several years in prison for perjuring himself over that story.
Welcome to a special youthful edition of The Clothes Show.
With the BBC giving the TV schedules the makeover, Selina Scott was attempting the same thing with our wardrobes. And if the kids wanted to forget their finger-clicking humiliation, they had a new daytime friend in a youthful Philip Schofield.
So are you all right? Beginning of daytime, we've been given our own slot in the mornings. They must be mad. But they did promise me we'd have some sort of a set.
As the gopherless Philip Schofield was busy building his set and his profile, the big battle on kids' TV was on Saturday morning. The BBC had Saturday Superstore inviting the nation's teachers to prove once and for all that those who can't sing, teach. That rendition wouldn't have troubled the top 100, but the haircut would have been just right for number 73 on ITV. So where was a decent singer when you needed one? Well, on the A-Team. Alongside B.A. Baracus on ITV at Saturday tea time was Boy George. Damn fool!
One of the reasons I think that show was successful was the chemistry between the actors. And that was there at that first reading. It was like everybody was arguing and laughing and fighting and disagreeing and laughing and hugging and fighting. And right away, it was all there. The storylines were very similar. They're all the same. There was the bad guys, there was the good guys. And we blew things up and we did our jokes and we got off. I mean, that was the show.
Boy George!
Boy George was the antithesis of what the A-Team reflected. I mean, we were all kind of macho guys, you know. I mean, George Papard certainly was, you know. And Mr. T with the muscles. And there was Boy George, kind of this fish out of water.
Yo, Cowboy George! Excuse me. I'm looking for Templeton Peck from Peach Pear Management. That you?
That's me. I'm looking for Cowboy George.
Well, I'm almost in. I'm Boy George. Hi.
He was very cute, he was very sweet, and he was a bit intimidated, a bit overwhelmed, because it was a very loud, boisterous, strong personality show, and he's kind of quiet. And he was out of his element, let's face it.
Boy George, wow.
But it was perfect. It's one of my favorite episodes.
It's highly awesome, Hannibal.
There will never be another A-Team on, well, I won't say never, but not in my lifetime, on American television. It's politically incorrect. It's unacceptable. We fired guns, we smoked cigars, and we were guys.
We're the A-Team, son of a gun.
So there.
The BBC's Saturday night big guns were Every Second Counts, Noel's Late Breakfast Show, and Russ Abbott.
Where have you been until now?
I've been to the pub for a pint.
You've been out with another woman, haven't you?
Look, I've told you. I've been down the pub for a pint with the lads.
All right, then. Where's your vest, then?
Blimey, I've been mugged.
Must have been entertaining in '86. But the king of Saturday night was Noel Edmonds. Ah, he could tell a joke. Sadly, he never did it on his show.
Times are hard by the look of it. A slight shortage of instruments?
Oh, we're doing an a cappella song.
Oh, that's where they dive off the cliffs.
Acapulco.
Oh.
Perhaps if they'd known better, Huey Lewis and his News might have preferred an appearance on Channel 4's newly revamped Friday Night Tube. 4 years old by 1986, the Tube that week featured Bob Geldof, and his appearance on the show had secured the TV Times front cover.
Music TV at that time was incredibly boring and stultifying. And I guess the Tube was born out of a feeling of, God, let's just try and throw a hand grenade in all this and try and get some excitement back on our screens.
Paula, is there any truth in the rumour that you and Bob recently had a shag?
I actually can't comment on that, but he does have a new single out.
Presenter Paula Yates had recently married the man behind Live Aid. The last record Bob had put together was then the largest-selling single of all time, Band Aid's Feed the World. This week, he was releasing his first ever solo single, This Is the World Calling.
It was inevitable that we had to do something on Bob, because the more Bob became iconic, you know, when we did finally persuade Paula and Bob that this was cool and it wasn't kind of an incestuous thing to do, and the fact that he'd just got married to our presenter was kind of academic in a sense.
The world may have been calling, and it certainly knew who he was, but it wasn't buying Bob's single. It reached number 25 in the charts. Paula may have had a hubby on the show, but that didn't stop her being interested in other men's boxer shorts, and one man's in particular.
Nick Kamen. What are you wearing under your trousers? Nothing. Nothing? Oh, tell me about it.
Oh, saucy. But the raunchiest TV temptress that week was on BBC Two on Wednesday night, in the life and loves of a she-devil.
Jesus, my angels.
Good morning, Father.
Morning. Can I help you?
I hope I can help you. The Vista Rose agency sent me.
Oh, the housekeeper.
The novel Life and Loves of a She-Devil was eminently filmable. It was about a very large woman who wants to become her husband's mistress, and it's really how she turns into that other desirable woman by virtue of cosmetic surgery.
In the series, Julie T. Wallace is desperate to look like Patricia Hodge. These days, if your plastic surgery goes wrong, you end up looking like you've got a trout pat. In October 1986, you ended up looking like Mrs. Potato Head.
She is a she-devil because she's set herself up against nature. But what she wants is rather absurd, except that it's what all women want, which is to be pretty loved. And Julie T. Wallace wrote saying, "This is my part, I can really act, but all I ever get is parts in street theatre because of my scale." Actually, she's incredibly beautiful. So she was more or less unknown and just went in and did it so triumphantly.
One programme that's been generating massive response since episode 1 is The Life and Loves of a She-Devil. And with me here in the studios is the She-Devil herself, the BBC's newest star, Julie T. Wallace. And may I say, Julie, what a nice girl you really are in real life.
Oh, thank you.
Lives and Loves of a She-Devil, that was the biggest thing on telly that year. Julie T. Wallace was the She-Devil, and she came on open air. Scary, but a nice woman, very nice woman.
Julie T. Wallace's portrayal of Ruth was marvellous. She's exactly as I imagined.
Well, I hated The Life and Loves of a She-Devil.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I thought it was appallingly acted. Well, mainly Dennis Waterman.
Why is he picking on me?
I thought the sexual details were far too graphic.
I admire your concern for the welfare of your sisters.
They didn't want to see the sex scene, not because it was a sex scene, but because it was a priest.
I mean, the sex to me was very explicit and unnecessary. I mean, it went too far.
It at least it got people going. At least it got them stirred up a bit and thinking.
I'd like to finish with this one call that we had. All your programmes contain sex or left-wing propaganda, so I'll be sending my licence fee to the Kremlin as a result of the life and loves of a she-devil.
If you wanted to deliver the Kremlin in person...
InTourist will take you to the Soviet Union this winter from only £195.
In the news, in Australia on Sunday, a burst tyre blew Nigel Mansell's Formula One World Championship hopes. Sparks were also flying down at the brand new M25. Critics said it wasn't wide enough.
I must say I can't stand those who carp and criticise when they ought to be congratulating Britain on a magnificent achievement and beating the drum for Britain all over the world.
After the motorway's official opening, the Prime Minister tried to show she was in touch with students by nicking a traffic cone. And after trying to distance us from Europe, Thatcher gave the go-ahead for a permanent link. Eurotunnel started to raise the finance for the Channel Tunnel that week. Something else that's still with us began on Thursday the 30th of October 1986 when Esther Ranson launched Childline, a helpline to assist young victims of abuse. Since that first Child Watch programme, the service has assisted over 1 million youngsters.
I think because I've been working on That's Life for a number of years, I knew that you get an immediate and direct response if you put a subject on the air, if you give viewers good information which touches them, particularly if it touches them emotionally, touches them in their own lives, they will respond at once. And hearing about children suffering this sort of pain was an extraordinary way that we were able to inform them that here was a brand new idea which might work, which might save lives, protect children from pain when there was no other help available to them.
Every few days we seem to read more stories about cruelty to children. Headline cases which make you wonder how much cruelty is going on day in, day out without hitting the headlines. The answer is it looks as if there's a very great deal.
If you need somebody to talk to.
Childline now has almost 1,000 volunteer counsellors advising more than 138,000 young people a year. And the Childline number remains the same.
Some of the stories in the survey will be read for us by actors tonight. Others who took part in the survey are with us in the studio to help us understand the problem.
I've never thought of the people who took part in that programme as victims, because they weren't. They were survivors. Yes, for many of them their lives had been damaged and they had long-term injuries as a result of the pain they'd suffered, but they'd come through it. Furthermore, they were utterly determined to try and protect today's children, and that gave them a motivation that inspired them, and we felt an obligation to tell their stories well and to do justice to their bravery. So it was extremely moving.
He used to pull me round by my hair and hit me.
Once when I came home from school, my mother hit me with a stair rod.
Up till this moment, I've never mentioned it to anybody. Not to the doctors, social workers, or even my mum. I was abused by my father.
I'm still not sure what effect we had in 1986, except, of course, that Childline's still here. We have 10 bases around the country. We're answering 2,500 children a day. I know that's happening, but what effect we had on the viewers, what effect we had on survivors of abuse, I still don't know.
There was light relief available at the same time over on ITV in Girls on Top. Dawn French was busy doing her bit for the silent minority.
Go, my beauty, away from this place of death.
While liberation was the theme on ITV, shackles were welcomed over on BBC Two.
Ladies and gentlemen, slight awkwardness tonight. Griff, for some reason, hasn't actually turned up. I don't quite know... Oh, he's here. He's here. No, I'm sorry I'm late. I was tied up. I mean,
And while Griff was a slave to comedy, Mel was on the payroll at Creda.
If men had a taste of what most women do, they'd soon be looking into a Creda. Creda, science for womankind.
Well, now, also with us in the studio today is Nina Miskow. Now, that's spelt M-Y-S-C-O-W, and often called by her critics Miss Cow.
I did have, I guess, a reputation for being tough, if you like. I always just thought of myself as honest.
I dreaded bumping into Nina Miskow, because Nina Miskow was always known to me, Mr. Local TV presenter, looking down, and it was the bitch on the box.
I absolutely disagree with this feeling that because it's northern, it's more real and honest and has more true emotion. That's nonsense. People are people wherever you go.
We could cause a storm with everybody disagreeing with you. Will you stay there?
Open air was pioneering, and I think it gave people the OK to think that, you know, yes, you can be entertained during the day as well. It's not just the evenings for entertainment. If you're at home, it's available. That's fine.
Nina was there as open air soap critic, and the BBC gave her a brand new target. On the first day of daytime TV, Monday the 27th of October, the nation said g'day to Ramsay Street.
Well, it was the start of Neighbours, and who would have thought all those years ago that Neighbours would still be going strong, because Neighbours was very different from British soaps for a start.
Hello?
Is that Daphne?
Yes?
Hi, my name's Ramsay, Shane Ramsay.
Yes, Mr. Ramsay?
We're having a bucks party for a mate tonight. I was wondering if you'd be available.
They were the first to bring young people into soaps, whereas before, soaps were always about grown-ups and the kids were secondary. Neighbours appealed to teenage audiences, and they felt that this was for them. And perhaps I was just a retarded teenager that I liked them. And I still like it, actually.
The Aussie newcomer was muscling in on a cutthroat world. British soaps were ruthless and brutal. In Brookside in '86, Pat Hancock had been held hostage in his own home and his housemate was killed. Damon Grant escaped the close to star in Damon and Debbie, where he was stabbed. The cast and crew of Crossroads was soon to be savagely axed after 4,510 episodes. With so much violent crime around, is it any wonder that Brookside's chartered accountant became case-busting pathologist Dr. Sam Ryan in Silent Witness? And the BBC's EastEnders was asking for crimes against hairstyles to be taken into consideration.
The band was stupid.
No, it was a good idea, Sharon. I mean, some of the things we did were stupid, but not the band.
It wasn't real, Wixie. You've got to do something real.
Yeah, like what?
At 5, Madonna's personal tribute to Jeffrey Archer, True Blue. The Bangles were walking like Egyptians at 4. All we ask of you is to stop singing! At 2, Status Quo were in the army now, if only. That was what we watched in the week of October the 25th to the 31st, 1986. A week when we got down and dirty. When a prostitute's allegations made Jeffrey Archer resign. When Griff Rhys-Jones was seen in a compromising position. When Tom Baker bared all. When Bucks party strippers became fair dinkum at lunchtime. And Nick Berry did unspeakable things with a microphone and still got to number 1.
Didn't you do well?
BBC Two begins Bruce Night with Room 101 next.